Hello and welcome back to the TSM podcast. This is another little midweek Just the Tip episode, and today we're going to be talking about that whole thing that we do when we miss, when we put an intentional miss. We're in the middle of a routine and we get the reveal wrong, only to use it later or to predict it later or do something different with it. This is a really controversial one because we see a lot of discussions about this in magic and mentalism forums across the internet. Should we have a strategic miss and should we have not a miss? And it's all bizarre. But Ashley, what do we actually mean by this whole concept of missing?
Yeah, well, it's the fake misses to use later in your show. It's that whole magician or mentalist gone wrong plot where you're doing a performance, you're doing something, either close-up, show, wherever, and the aim is, like, part of that trick effect, it goes wrong. Maybe you've got the big reveal, you're guessing the name of someone, it's gone wrong, you can't guess it, and everyone's like, that sucks, and you're like, yeah, I know, moving on, with the whole aim of bringing it back at the end of the show and being like, haha, I knew all along. But here's the thing, Aidan. Everyone does it and it's a bit kind of weak now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's always been a bit weak, if I'm perfectly honest. Some performers do it really, really well. Heck, it only takes a couple of looks at some of Darren's performances to know that Darren Brown is a genius when it comes down to this approach, and I think he really pioneered it, and that's probably why it's so common nowadays, especially in the modern era. Not that he created this whole approach, because it's been done for absolutely decades, centuries, I'm sure. But yeah, it's like this weird dynamic of like, I'm going to put this intentional miss in here so that I can bring it back later as part of sometimes as a confabulation or as a bonus big reveal or as something like I've seen performers do it where they've got like this intentional miss of like a name or a specific piece of information, and they come back to it right at the end when all of the process has been done earlier in the show. They come back to it and it's a really clean demonstration of mind reading, and it falls flat, and it's like, cool. It feels like that's cool, that's nice, rather than an actual, oh my god, did he just read my mind? This is an amazing moment. And I'm kind of talking from experience here as well, because I used to do this a lot. Like, I was obsessed with this whole intentional miss to bring it back later as part of either a confabulation or another form of reveal, and I started noticing very quickly that it wasn't playing as well. Like, my audiences weren't like amazed by it. It was kind of like oh, nice. That was it, because everything, we've wasted 10 to 15 minutes of dead time earlier on in the show. Like, it was all happening then. That would have been the perfect moment. They'd have loved the reveal in that moment. But because we basically did 10 to 15 minutes, or however, 5 minutes, 30 seconds of build up on this, whatever bit it was, to then basically say, that didn't work, and or just move on completely. Everyone kind of left that moment and connected that reveal, that piece of information, with a really sense of deflation, like, oh, okay, whatever. So then when it comes back later, what's their memory point? Their memory point isn't, oh my god, yes, Susan was thinking of her mother's name. It's like, oh yeah, you tried it earlier, it didn't really work, did it? Like, that's the connection. It's bizarre.
It's a really weird thing, and just another example which has just literally come into my mind just now, Aidan. I remember watching Britain's Got Talent a few years ago, and there was a magician on there actually performing, and it was part of the show. They'd done this magician goes wrong principle, the fake miss principle in there, and as the trick goes, they messed up. There was this planned miss, but one of the judges leant over and went, "Hang on, something's about to happen." Literally, your audience kind of feels now that something's about to happen. It seems like every magician out there, every performer out there, almost feels like, it's a way of being different. It's a way of tricking your audience to hit them with surprise. But it doesn't really do it. Like you were saying, when you do have other misses which are genuine, it gets lumped in. So now, like, instead of having one miss in your show which is actually genuine, you've actually just messed up for whatever reason, which can happen, your audience is now going to see 3, 4, 5 misses and think, is this person any good at performing? It's a danger you fall into.
To give a really sort of example of that, there was a bunch of shows that I was doing, and I always used to write these intentional misses in my show for various endings, whether it wasn't always a confabulation. Like, I don't particularly like the confabulation plot, but that's a conversation for another episode, I'm sure. But I had these moments of misses to bring back later on, and what actually happened in that show is, like, the end of the first half, there was I was doing a routine to the big wow moment so that everybody leaves that end of the first half thinking energized, feeling energized, having that break ready to come back in for the second half. But that end routine for that first half flopped. Like, the method utterly failed, and I had nothing. I couldn't get anything. It was an unsalvageable moment. It was a mess up. But what happened is that I brought back all of the other intentional misses throughout the show. And there wasn't many. I'm not saying that my entire show was littered with intentional misses. It was like maybe one or two others, but they were big enough moments for people to remember. But the thing is, after the show, people weren't coming up to me to say, oh my God, that was amazing, like a usual show or a usual performance. They weren't coming with compliments or saying amazing things. They were saying, asking questions about, like, what about that other thing? Because they all expected it to come back later on. And there was another good friend of ours, a performer. He saw my performances and actually trying this intentional miss approach. And it got to the point that afterwards we spoke about it. I was going for one vision of the whole performance piece. And what he said, it really stuck with me. And it really changed my entire philosophy on everything. It was like, if you keep up with this kind of approach, it really works for your character and stuff, but you can really push it even further, and you could almost be the Tommy Cooper of mentalism. And that was the penny drop moment for me. I was like, I don't want to be the Tommy Cooper of mentalism. That, like, he is a genius in and of himself. Like, that's one route, but that's not the route I'm trying for here. I was trying for something completely different. So, yeah, like, in real shows, when people see that miss, a real miss, you're forced to bring it back, and it's just an uncomfortable position, a really uncomfortable position.
It is, and the final thought on this, from my own perspective, from my own performance and style of that, if you could really read minds and you get it wrong, fine, we all make mistakes, but if it was predicted later, then surely your audience will think, why did they get it wrong in the first place? Surely they already knew what it was. Are they some sort of idiot? Like, come on. If that doesn't spell it out clean enough, I don't know what will. But we've already said a couple of things of why me and Aidan are like, this doesn't really work. But it can if you do it properly and in the right way. There is a time and a place for this if it's done properly. If you want to use that magician gone wrong principle, if you want to use that fake missing mentalism principle, there is a time and a place for that. And the best cases are when you use it as little throwaway lines in the performance. If you're doing a magician goes wrong scenario and it's like your big finale which you're planning to go wrong to only call it back at the end, that's not going to work. But if it's like a little thing throughout and it goes wrong and maybe you do something with that later on, then it kind of works. It's a little throwaway. For example, when I get people up on stage, I'm doing like random name guesses, star sign guesses, which are just out of the blue. It's like, oh, you don't know someone called Dave, do you? They either say yes or no, and then we move past it. If they say no, it's gone past. If they say yes, it's an absolute miracle. It's no longer seen as like a miss or a failure in that example, is it, Aidan? Because it's like something so easy to brush past. It's not a trick or an effect. It's just a passing thing, a passing comment, a passing statement, just a little bit of spice. Or I always bring back the weird examples, a little bit spice on my mentalism.
Yeah, well, it's exactly that. It's like you're asking a question, not going for a trick or a reveal or something, whereas most people we've seen doing this approach, and I'm sure that it's by no fault of their own, like they're going in like, you're not, like, rather than just a casual comment of you're not a Libra, are you? They're like, hang on, are you a Libra? No, I didn't think. And then they build it into like, that's a terrible, like, it's not actually how I've seen it done. But the point there is like, it's really accentuating a moment that was easily brushed pastable, if that's now a word. But yeah, it's throwaways are really key at the end of the day. It's those little callbacks and those little references to a mistake. That's when it works fantastically. But when you're trying to look at this big mistake, as we said earlier, like having that response and that memory attached to the time where the routine flopped, you don't want to be bringing that feeling back into your big final reveal. Like an emotion paired with a short-term piece of information, a short-term memory, will convert into a long-term memory. That's fundamental science and storytelling at that point. So if early in your show there's a miss, you pair that with the emotion of whatever that emotion is, take it and interpret it yourself, but you get that calling back to an moment when you should be like it's so different. It's bizarre. You can interpret all of those feelings however you like.
Moral of the story: stop doing magic. Do magic. But I want to relate this back to what you said at the beginning with Derren Brown here to quickly round up. You said Derren Brown is a master at doing this, and you know why? It's because I remember one of his shows when he done this magician goes wrong principle, except it wasn't the magician that went wrong, it was the spectator done something wrong. On purpose, there was a cup knocked off the table during a smash and stab routine. The trick didn't go wrong, the effect didn't go wrong, except there was an inconvenience supposedly from the audience member, and that was the thing that was predicted at the end. Derren Brown was seen to do the effect, the trick perfectly. He nailed that. Everyone was blown away. It was just that everyone thought that the spectator made a mistake, but then Derren became an absolute genius because he predicted the mistake that the audience member made. You're no longer making yourself go wrong. It's almost like it's just a thing that happens. The spectator drops a pen, knocks a cup off the table, accidentally scribbles on your face, whatever, and that's predicted. You get the point here. It's now something else. It's a little passing moment which is predicted, which is what we said earlier as well, instead of the failure within the trick. So if there's one thing that you can take from today, stop making your tricks go wrong. It's just naff, it's overused, and if you really want to do it within the passing moments, the small little pieces of spice which we had on, if you want to call back to my example.
Well, exactly that. And at the end of the day, it goes back to something that we spoke about with Colin Cloud. It's like, if you're getting paid for a corporate show, you're not getting paid to miss. You're getting paid to hit. So you've got to make sure that philosophy is not just corporate shows, that's every single performance you do. You're there in that moment to make an impact. And again, dial back the misses. I've really had to learn this the hard way, but dial back those misses and go for the little spice that Ashley's talking about, and that is going to see your presentations feel much more exciting for your audience, and you're not going to have that moment at the end of your show. Simple as that.
There we go. And to finish up, I think, Aidan, what we're going to do today when this launches, we're going to put a post up in the TSM network to ask you guys what you do, what your views are on these fake misses, a fake magician goes wrong principle within magic and mentalism. So that'll be up in the TSM network. If you want to join our network, and if you're already there, brilliant, because we've got hundreds of magicians from around the globe, all at different skill levels. You want to join in on that, you want to have further chats, join our live podcast recordings, and all of the extra good bonus freebie stuff, all that jazz which we do over there, go and head over to thesuccessfulmentalist.com/community, thesuccessfulmentalist.com/community. Sign up for free and join in on all the discussions.
Well, exactly that. And if you are watching this episode on YouTube, whack a comment below. Simple as that. Simple as that. So there we go. Moral of the story, stop missing reveals and enjoy performing mentalism and magic with really great reactions.